Wow, we're live. This is exciting. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole day. That I just want to enjoy the live set. All right, let's see. One of my favorite parts of the whole
Boom.
day. That I just We officially have sound. You got to check those things. You got to be on top of yourself sometimes. Today's video is a live lesson that's going to go over two brains, the artist brain and the business brain. What is the major difference between them? How can you notice if you are thinking like an artist or if you're thinking like a business? In this video, we're going to go over several different points on each and then talk about things that you could be doing or should be doing to advance your career. As always, I'm Thomas J. Beleza, so please like, comment, and share this video along with subscribing for future content on how to be successful in your career, specifically in the entertainment industry. All right, let's get right to it. We're gonna jump right through to it. I like to do that. You like to do it. Let's just make things happen. Now, everything we're going to go over today is about utilizing your entrepreneurial brain, right? So, on this channel, we talk about how to be successful. What success? We define success as making a living within your field of interest. A living is not a lifestyle, a living is affording an average monthly overhead, right? So, the entrepreneurial brain's job is always to find solutions by thinking outside the box and a proactive effort. With that said, we have to change our brain to change the results, right? Change the brain, change the game. So today, when we talk about the artist, think about it. Do you fit the artist brain as we go over it, or do you fit more of the business brain? If that's the case, we'll also talk about how if you don't follow the artist brain and you follow the business brain, are you plateauing in your career, especially in entertainment? And if so, we'll also talk about a couple things that you can do to break those plateaus. All right. I like to focus on the artist brain first because this is usually where the majority of people in entertainment are. These are musicians, writers, actors, directors, producers, comic artists, anything and everything, bands, so forth and so forth. Doesn't mean that they don't have some of these people, but the artist brain usually fills those communities, and this is pretty much how that happens. The artist brain likes to repeat the same action and expect new results. A few examples of this, I mean, obviously, the saying might sound very familiar, but a few strong examples would be a band says, if we do shows, we will get an audience. But if you do shows and there's no audience there, you can't build an audience. And you don't build an audience by trying to get people to like your music, right? The same thing with acting. If you want to build an audience, you don't go, I'm going to spend money to film a movie, and then I'm going to send it to film festivals, and I will build an audience and people will be like, wow, that actor's amazing. We need to hire them. That is repeating the same action, expecting new results. Why? Because what does the band do? They play more and more shows, expecting an audience to grow. Actors will continue to perform in projects. Writers and directors will do the same thing, including producers. My favorite is when producers film, they raise money. They either raise money crowdfunding or they raise money from investors, and then they send their project to film festivals and they win awards. But then they don't make any money. They don't get distribution. It takes years before the film even does anything of interest before they're just like, all right, let's do another one. And therefore they repeat the same process without actually making money. Your job as a producer is to make money, right? But if you're trying to make a living in entertainment, which is making a living is making success is about making a living within your field of interest. A living is not a lifestyle. A living is affording your average monthly overhead. So if you're doing things that are not contributing to the success of your career, the growth of your career, then why keep doing it? And the reason is because the artist brain feels like, well, this is how it's supposed to be, so it should be working. It will work eventually. The only problem is a lot of artist brain people, they only know what they know, and they don't know anything more than that. And they might even ask people they believe know, but they're in the same world. Remember, the 5 people you hang out with the most become the world you live in. That's about your circle of influence, right? So if you're hanging out with people doing exactly the same thing as you, their knowledge base might not necessarily be elevating your position. So if somebody says, hey, you're a comedian, you want to be a successful comedian, just write and perform as much as possible, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean because you're writing and performing, you're going to be successful. You will be a better comedian. You will be better at performing. You will be better at writing because you are focusing on the creative before the career. So a lot of artist brain want to just become so good you can't ignore me. But even Steve Martin, who is famous for saying that, was not discovered because he was so good. All of his opportunities came from networking and marketing his brand as a person. People were like, I like working with him. He's a good person, et cetera, et cetera. And if you don't know the story about how he got on the Smothers Brother Hour, he had dated a woman, Nina, and they broke up, but they stayed friends. She was a dancer on the show and was dating the head writer. She said, hey, Steve Martin was like, hey, can you give my stuff to the show? And she did. And the head writer showed it to the Smother Brothers, and they were not interested. So the head writer himself hired Steve Martin on the side as a favor to Nina and paid him out of his own pocket. And over time, they were like, who's this stuff? And Steve Martin eventually got a job, but he wouldn't have got that job because of his craft. He got his job because of his valued relationships, et cetera, et cetera. But if you focus on the creative, you're not going to find it. So if you're surrounded by other comedians, musicians, writers, anybody, and they're telling you to do A, B, C, and D, and they're doing A, B, C, and D, and you're all doing the same thing, which is nothing, and you're all working survival jobs, that advice isn't necessarily wise. That's artist brain advice. And if you go, well, if I do A, B, and C, but you don't know, you can't prove the results, why is it a good option? Here's another thought with that. Okay, so the focus on creativity and the repeat same action. Sometimes the artist brain will look at results and determine that as process, whereas the business brain will look at the results and organize a list of process. An artist brain goes, if I make a CD, I make money, right? Metallica, they record a CD, they release a CD, they make millions. Brad Pitt makes a movie, he makes millions, right? But that's result. Brad Pitt's journey to get 10, 15, or $20 million of film is not because he does movies. He did a lot of what? Networking, marketing, and he practiced. He learned his industry, eventually created what? A production company, because it's important to be a business. And that production company gives him the rights and the value sets to afford him those kind of paychecks. So the artist brain is thinking, if I do A, I will get B, but they don't understand the process. And in reality, it's if I do A, I should get Z. But that is also not true, right? Isn't it? If I make a CD, I'll get it. No, you have to do A through Z to earn the right to get rewarded for your creativity. I'm not saying don't do creative stuff. I'm not saying stop writing or anything like that. In fact, perform all you want. To get out there, create, write scripts. You have to continue to build your craft. However, if you rely on your craft, you will not find success because, again, if you make the greatest song in the world or the greatest joke or the greatest movie and you leave it on your table and no one knows about it, it's the greatest thing no one's ever heard about. So you need marketing and you need people to believe in you, which is networking, and you need to know how the business works so you don't get taken advantage of. That's practice. Okay. The other artist brain is the thing. There's this thing where they think, how do we get people to see? Sorry about that. They think, how do I get people to see my music, my acting, my art, my writing, my this, my that, my book? And the thing is, woo. The thing is, with that mentality, the hardest part about it is you're focusing again not on the creativity, but the results of the creativity, which is product. Product is not brand. Audiences connect to a brand. So if I say to you McDonald's, there's probably three things you think of. Probably that French fries, a Happy Meal, maybe the Ronald McDonald, or depending on how old you are, if you're younger, you might just think the Golden Arches. But if I tell you Brad Pitt, you're going to think Brad Pitt. You're going to think very specific roles, but those roles speak to his brand, right? You might not think Thelma and Louise, but you might think something else that he's a Mr. and Mrs. Smith or something along the lines of his brand, what you see Brad Pitt as. If I say Metallica, you're going to think of probably Master of Puppets, One, Fade to Black, but these aren't the songs necessarily. It's the era of the style, what those things represented to you and how you connected with the people that were also into that. Okay. So if you focus on how do I get people to see the product, you're spending more time on just getting, for example, let's say I release a song, right? Here's a song or whatever. It could be a movie, it could be anything, it could be a book, right? And I put all my time and money into this product to get people to see it. I'm not getting them to do what? Connect with me as a brand, just like they should be connecting with you as a brand. Because once they can trust you, now, just like Nike sneakers, the reason people wait 4 hours in line is because it's a trust. I may not like Nike sneakers. You may not like Nike sneakers, but they are a multi-billion-dollar company. So people are willing to stand in line for 4 hours because they trust in the brand. It's not just the shoe, because the shoes are always new. The newest shoe is not the shoe they got last time. It's a new shoe, so they trust the brand. But if you focus, imagine Nike just focused on. Nike was just like, "Hey, buy our shoe. This shoe, this shoe, this shoe, this shoe, this shoe." They didn't do that. What they did focus was on brand. So be like Mike. They would show Mike somebody going, "I want to be like Mike," and then Mike would run out of the house and he'd jump real high and he, slap somebody's hand in the tree house. But the point is, they were focusing on the Michael Jordan brand, and they were focusing on how he could jump high and nothing is out of reach for him. So bands or anybody, writers, actors, they focus on how do I get people to see the thing. And if you put all your energy into that, you're not really going to get a lot of big results from that. All right. Once the artist brain will say, once I get my big break, I can afford to put more focus on things. So this is usually people that have a survival job. Where's a survival job? They'll say, all right, I got to work here because I have to pay my bills, right? That's an artist brain. I have to work here because I have to pay my bills. But they're not working in their field of interest. They're a waiter, right? Cliche. They work at they work at a car wash, or they deliver pizza, or they work at a supermarket, but they're not working within their field. So making crappy money to pay your bills in a job that's within your field, even if it's a crappy job within your field, is also I want I want to only do X, Y, and Z and nothing else to make a living. Meaning, if I want to be a musician, if I'm not making money playing shows or making money off of my music, I don't want anything to. I'm not going to work for a record label. I'm not going to work for a recording studio. I'm not going to be a lone roadie. I'm not going to do merchandise for bands. Like, that mentality is not business brain. That's artist brain. I only want to put time and effort into the thing that matters to me, which is my music or my acting or my writing. But once my acting takes off or once my writing takes off, then I could actually focus on that career, which is not business brain, that's artist brain. The problem with that is what you focus on elevates. So if you're focusing on the supermarket job, you're going to eventually become a manager at the supermarket. If you're focusing on your career in acting, you can see that career grow, because the mentality is, how can a hobby become a career if you're putting all that time into your career? And then you think, well, it's not my career, it's just my survival job. This is the thing, though. We put a lot of time into a survival job to pay our bills. And then we put some time into the thing we are passionate about. Imagine we made the sacrifices to do the thing we are passionate about instead of focusing on the thing we are not. This is the more crazy part. Once I get a big break, I can afford my life and I want to only do X, Y, and Z. Well, if you're working a supermarket job that you hate, but you're unwilling to work a job you hate in your industry, you don't want to work in that field. You just want to do the thing you do and get paid for it. But that isn't how it works. If you just got out of school, right? Let's say you just graduated high school, okay? You cannot go to Apple, the company, and say, hire me as a CEO. Your dream might be, I want to be the CEO of Apple, right? But you're an artist, right? Artist brain is like, I want to be, right? As an example, I want to be I just graduated high school and I want to be a CEO of Apple. And then they're like, you can't be the CEO. You got to start. You don't have any knowledge or information, so you got to start as the mail person. I am not going to work in the mailroom. And then you go get a job at a supermarket, or you get a job as a waiter, right? This is artist brain, and you'll just work there until you get your CEO job at Apple. See, the artist brain doesn't realize you got to sacrifice the survival job to pay bills. No, you have to have productive sacrifice. Okay, artist brains don't, they have no productive sacrifice. Productive sacrifice means that we do crappy jobs within our field so we could build and cultivate relationships in that world, so we could build our value sets and market our brand so people know who we are and what we're capable of, and we get to practice. What's the practice? We get to learn the industry from the bottom to the top. Can't just be the thing you want to be in anything. If that was the case, the first day you go to school, you go, "Well, I just want to graduate," and they'd be like, "Well, you're just starting kindergarten." I don't care. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go hang out away from school until I get the graduation, right? So have productive sacrifices. Artist brain doesn't do that. So to sum it up, artist brain, they do things opposite of a business brain. They want the results of whatever they believe is right. They have a hard time accepting that they could be wrong. But the thing is, if you don't know the business, and you can't say, well, I seen Metallica release an album, so I know the business. No, you don't. All you got to do is, if you're a band or an actor or a writer or a music or any producer, you say to yourself, how does the contracts work? If you cannot answer that question, and I don't mean like, well, you sign the contract, you get some money, you get some back. If you don't understand how the contract works, you don't know how the business works, right? If you don't know what a record label does, or a studio, like a recording, not a recording studio, like a movie studio, if you don't really understand what they do, if you don't understand how the set works, like on a film set or a TV set, if you don't understand how the publishing industry works, how can you do the same action over and over again? You don't know how the industry works, so you can't do it. Right? They focus only on creative, and they hope that their creativeness, because the thing is, like, I want to be successful because my art connected with people, or my performance connected with people. There's that sense of self-fulfilling prophecy that the artist brain kind of like pushes onto you, right? So before we move on to the business brain, I'm going to take a sip. And I want to do a reminder of, please like, comment, and share the video along with subscribing for future content on how to be successful in your career. All right, so that's the artist brain. Let's talk about the business brain. The business brain, so instead of repeating the same action, expecting new results, the business brain will try plan Bs to plan As, all right, to change things up. Basically, if plan A isn't working, they just go to their plan B, C, D, E, and F to get to plan A. So the results of plan A is still there, but because their course of action is not working, they find their B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z additional opportunities to make A work. They don't just maintain like, well, this is the idea I had, and if this is what it's going to be, I'm just going to keep doing the album until I become huge. Business brains go, wait, I want to be making a living. I defined it. I created my mission plan. I know what it would look like, what success would look like to me, because I've defined it. So now I have to start working towards that. This particular thing is not working. I've already put 3 months, 6 months, a year into it. Let me try something else to accomplish the same thing. Business brain goes, time is money. And I can't make money unless I trade my time, so I could eventually develop wealth, right? So the idea is, don't waste your time. They find solutions by thinking outside the box. That's the other thing. Bands, actors, writers, musicians with artist brain, okay? What they usually will do is they won't look for solutions. They just kind of think they know what they're doing, but they don't necessarily understand the industry. So a business brain goes, all right, if this isn't working, let me see what it would let me do a little research. Let me read some books. Let me read biographies. Let me try to find mentors. Let me try to get involved with the industry so I can start learning how it works, because maybe I don't know what I'm doing. So they find solutions by thinking outside the box. They go, all right, this isn't working. So let me just write down and brainstorm things I could do. At least you're getting the brain thinking, right? Business brain will focus on network, market, and practice to build and cultivate relationships, to develop a brand or value sets within a community so people know what you bring to the table. And they practice by educating themselves on how the industry works, as well as developing their own strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Uh, Business brain is focus a lot of energy on managing their time, money, and the people around them, because your time is limited. So how you utilize it can really change your world. The money is something that fuels you, and you want to develop wealth. So wealth creates time for choice, because you want to be able to do things because you want to, not because you have to pay the bills. And then the aspect of people is the 5 people you surround yourself with become the world you live in. So if you're surrounded by people that are not finding solutions, that are not motivated, that they go, what, they have a stubborn, well, this was my idea, so I got to do it. You got to change the people you're around. Right? They know what they bring to the table to lead, follow, and when possible, advise. It's a very strong quality of a business mind. Is they're not there to take control. They're not there to solely follow, and they're not there to just advise always. They have the concept of, well, I'm able to take a step forward and help when I have to. I'm able to take a step back and follow when needed. And if somebody is asking for advice or don't know what they want to do, I take a little proactive effort and I throw my 2 cents in. However, the business brain also knows that if somebody doesn't like your 2 cents, it's okay to be like, all right, that's fine. It's just information, right? However, if you are an expert in a very specific field and they don't take your advice after asking it and they continue to do the things wrong, you got to remember you have boundaries. You got to be like, I got to step away because I can't be around people that are not necessarily using their noggin. All right. And business brain people, remember, they have a very strong mantra. They know what you do is not your job. Your job rewards you financially to do the thing you do passionately. So the thing you do is like, if you're an actor, what you do is you act. But acting isn't your job. Acting is literally the reward for doing your job. If you don't believe that, well, you have to network. That's a part of your job. So you build relationships with casting directors, writers, directors, producers. You build relationships with other actors that eventually what? Suggested you to their agent or their manager, or you are developing a strong relationship with your manager or agent and they're going, I like this person, so I'm going to push them more. None of that has to do with your craft. None of it is about craft yet, right? So what you do is not your job, but by doing those relationship buildings and by creating strong value sets, the manager gets you an audition. It's not about the craft, but you get the audition, the self date done in a reasonable amount of time. You're not the last person there. You manage your time. So they go, all right, this person's responsible. You have an audition in person, you get there. Let's say you have to do an interview, right? So your publicist is like, I got you an interview, and you show up on time. You do the interview. You have good, strong questions. All that is value sets, right? But that's not what you do. Those are your job responsibilities. And then what happens is people see that you know what you're doing and you're competent, and now you get rewarded financially to do the thing you do passionately. Okay. So the other thing about a business brain is they are proactive. Okay. Remember, the artist brain is like, once I get my big break, I could start really focusing on it. I know I'm a waiter right now, but I'm just trying to pay my bills. And if acting happens, it happens. But proactive doesn't mean I'm just going to audition. Because what are you doing? Focusing on the creative before the career. See? So if you focus on the creative before the career, you can't be proactive. If you just keep playing shows, something will happen. I'll write a book. I'll write another book. All right, I wrote 10 books. I have 15 books. Man, why do I have a career? It's because you're focused on the creativity before the career, right? Because again, they're just widgets. And you just kept designing different widgets, but you're not running your career properly. You're not doing your job. So you just have a house full of widgets and nobody's interested in them. Okay. The startup capital. This is the other thing. Artist brain, survival job, pay the bills until something happens. The artist brain, we actually talked about this in a video, I think yesterday and earlier last week. The startup capital is ultimately there to allow you to take calculated chances. So if you save up the 18 months of your average monthly overhead, you now have a year and a half to focus on your career. You can be within your field of interest. You could start volunteering your time with record labels. You can start volunteering your time with SAG and after a union or a directors union or a writers union. You could volunteer your time with publicists. You could start going to events. You could start. You could go get a job doing a crappy job at one of these companies or within the industry because you're not relying on the good money. You have the money. And since you're making a little extra money because of the rule of 60-40 split rule, every time you make money, you can start organizing. And eventually, during at least 3 to 4 months in, now you can start investing and you start developing. Well, I don't make this stuff up. All right. And then they have productive sacrifice, which is the opposite of no productive sacrifice. The productive sacrifice of a business person is, for example, Elon Musk and his brother lived in their office while they were building PayPal. Okay. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos. Right. He had a very tiny office. I believe he stayed there too. Steve Jobs, he worked out of his garage, right? They sacrifice like the luxury of what success would look like to live as poor as possible until they created an opportunity, and then they allowed that to lead them to success. All right, one last thing, and then we're done. I want you to remember these couple of thoughts. All right, these are important thoughts for self-evaluation. And you could say to yourself, do I do these things that the artist brain is? And it's okay, by the way, to be doing these things. It's just you have to acknowledge it. And it doesn't make you bad or wrong or like a terrible person. It's just this is okay if you just enjoy doing it. Like if you love being an artist, none of this is bad. Just keep doing it. If your big break happens, awesome. But the moment you want a career, you have to think like a business, right? If you feel you have some of the business brain, or maybe you have a little bit of both, try to get everything going over here. Now, when you create, be an artist. But as soon as you're done creating or performing, be a business. So these three thoughts are something you should like use as a mantra, right? Doing stuff is not always getting things done. Right? Sometimes sometimes I have clients and they're like, I did a lot today. Oh, you did? Yeah, I did like 10 or 15 things. All right. But did you get anything done? Yeah. What did you do? Let's see. I wrote 5 more pages in my book. I don't know. I interacted on social media. What did you interact on? Oh, I just posted things. I said, oh, my book's out. My book's out. My old book is out. Buy my book. Buy my book. Right? That's not really doing anything. That's called pushing. And pushing does two things. It pushes an agenda and it pushes people away. All right. The second thought is getting things done is not always proactive. All right. So again, no proactive sacrifice. That it's the artist brain is if you're like, well, I'm choosing to be proactive. I work 2 jobs to save a bunch of money so I can record an album. That's not necessarily proactive, and getting things done is not always proactive. So you did get something done. You saved up a ton of money. You worked really hard, and then you recorded an album. Or let's say you saved a bunch of money and you got like a headshot. Your headshots done that were like $800. Like you're not being proactive. You're just doing things. And the third thought is, and hard work isn't always productive. That's a very important mantra. I always say, I go, hey, don't work too hard, but be productive. All right. And the thing with time management, when we talk about that on this channel, is with time management, it's not about finishing things. It's about organizing your time and saying, I reached my 30-minute limit, or I reached an hour limit, or my 15-minute limit. I have to stop this thing and I have to move on to the next thing. And that power takes back control to your time because now things don't control you. You control things. It's not about getting it done. It's about working on things consistently and constantly. So on a Monday, you could work for 30 minutes or an hour on your book. And then you stop after your time, whatever your time block is, just pick it and don't be like, I'll do 15 minutes and then it's 15 minutes in, you go, I'll just do 30 minutes. And you're like, I'll do it. No, because that's not time management. For that day, set your time management. It could change every day. You could be like 15 on Monday, 30 on Tuesday, 60 on Wednesday, 90 on Thursday, 2 hours on Friday, right? I would never, ever do more than 2 hours of a block for tasks. Tasks is different than meetings. People always break the rules. So for time management. So if somebody calls you, don't worry about your time management. If if you're in a meeting, if you're out to have lunch, people come first. Anyway, my point is with time management, right? This whole thing, hard work isn't always productive. By doing a little bit every day of something, if you did 30 minutes on your book, 30 minutes on your book, 30 minutes on your book, by Monday through Friday, you just did 2.5 hours. But this is the crazy part. You spent 30 minutes a day. And you did 30 minutes of something else, something else, something else, something else. So if you have that foundation, right, you saved up your startup capital and you could dedicate an 8 to 9 hour day to your career. Let's say you're not out in the field. Let's say you didn't get involved today, or let's say you don't have a job working at some sort of record label or a publicist or a casting director. The thing is, with that time management, you can dedicate. If you have 8 hours, let's just say you have 5 hours. The hell with it. What's 5 divided by times 2? It's 10 things you get done. You start with time management. So 10, right, times 5 is 50. So you just did 50 things in your week. Whereas if you work on your book, some people are like, I'll just write on my book. And you work on your book for 4 to 5 hours. Now your day is done. So what else did you work on? The business brain about the time management is about doing a little bit of a lot, right? So they do a lot of things and they do a little bit each day. Because 2.5 hours each week is a lot of time put towards it. But if you focus all your time on one thing in a day, I have to get this done. That means you just got to organize your time better. If something has a deadline, dedicate an hour or two to it each day, or start it sooner. Don't just wait to the last minute. You're responsible for that. All right. So there you go. Artist brain versus the business brain. Please, if you have any comments about this, especially on the YouTube channel, just leave them in the comments below. If you have questions, thoughts, ideas, especially because this is live right now, but we're about to. I'll be happy to answer those, especially in the comments and or into the future. And if you haven't already, please like, comment, and share this video along with subscribing for future content on how to be successful in your career, specifically in the entertainment industry. The purpose of sharing this is because we want people around us elevated. We want to share knowledge because we want to work, grow, and rise together. We work together so we can make things happen. We grow together. That means educate and elevate. And then we rise together. As opportunities come, we reach down and help those below us. Why? Because just like Adam Sandler and his team, just like Martin Scorsese and his team, just like Seth Rogen and his team, they all started somewhere. But you want to bring people with you, right? Surround yourself with good people, good friends. And remember, it's not always about you. It's about the mission, morals, and the ideologies of your life attached to these circle of influences. Be good to one another. And I'll see you next time. Remember, Monday through Friday, 4:30. Every Monday through Friday, 4:30. Live lesson. Different topics. All right. Be good.